Katy Perry is suing an 85-year-old veteran for $6 million, and this is being called the most unforgivable offense because legally, Katy Perry didn't do anything wrong. Optically, she looks like a monster. And not because she broke the law, but because of optics. So optics is how something looks to the public, whether or not it's true. So what happened is Katy Perry bought a $14.2 million mansion from Carl Westcott, an elderly veteran. Westcott later said that he was on meds and he didn't have the mental capacity to sell. He tried to back out. Katy Perry brought him to court, and a judge said the sale was valid. And then Katy Perry sued him, claiming that he overstayed the property, owed her rent, and damaged the property while he was still there. Now, his family and the public largely agree that she's heartless, but Perry says she's just enforcing a contract. Now, watch what happens when we remove the names. A woman buys a house from a man. Man later claims he wasn't in the right state of mind and he wants to go back on the contract. A judge looks at the case and says, not true. Contract is valid. The man stays in the house longer than allowed and causes damage. And then, the woman sues him for losses. If you heard it this way, would you care? Probably not. It's just a real estate transaction. None of my business. But the second you put the names back in, billionaire pop star sues dying veteran, the entire story shifts. Same facts, different reaction. That is optics. Now, the reasons why people are upset with Katy Perry are very real. First and foremost, there's a huge power imbalance. If this was a regular buyer and seller dispute, nobody would care. But Perry is worth many, many millions. So now the public sees her as somebody who already has enough, doesn't need to go after an elderly gentleman and a veteran at that. And then there's a moral argument, because even though she's legally entitled to compensation, people see a big difference between legal and ethical. This is not that Westcott is just old, it's that he's also a veteran and he claims he was on medication. He wasn't in the right state of mind when he sold his beloved house. The optics make Katy Perry look ruthless. Instead of showing him some kind of mercy, she fought him in court, she won, and then she sued him for millions of dollars. And to a lot of people, this is the equivalent of throwing salt in the wound because you didn't need to do that. So now legally, Perry is right. But optically, she looks like a supervillain. Now the way the story is framed, pop star sues dying veteran, it's an easy headline to enrage people, but if the story were framed even a little bit differently, like woman sues man who refused to vacate her home after she legally bought it, the reaction would be entirely different. It's the same event, but it's two completely different perceptions. That is why optics matter. Optics can make things look a lot worse than they are. Like, let's say a big company sues a small company for trademark infringement. They're legally right, but now they look like corporate bullies. Or let's say a brand enforces like a no refund policy and it's in the terms, but one viral complaint and now they're the worst business in the world. The flip side of this is that sometimes optics expose very real issues. Like a company might donate to charity, but they underpay their workers and then the public calls them out on the hypocrisy, forcing a change. Or a celebrity launches a product and they ignore other customer complaints. They're legally allowed to do that, but the public pressure forces them to act on it. And optics aren't always misleading, but ignoring them can destroy trust, even if you are right. Now, how does this apply to your business and your brand? What has Katy Perry got to do with you? If you run a business, you have to think about how people will react. And that means narrative control matters. If you don't tell your story, the internet will do it for you, and they will not be kind. Number two is being right is never enough. If customers perceive your actions as unfair, you lose trust, even if you're technically justified. Things like not having a return policy can do that. Because PR, marketing in general, it's all about emotional perception. People don't engage with facts first, they engage with feelings. And understanding what triggers backlash and how to preemptively get ahead of that, soften the negative optics, is a very critical skill set. And this is why some brands make decisions that sometimes don't make sense logically or financially, because maintaining a positive public image is a lot of times worth more than winning an argument. Now here's what you do if optics do turn against you. First of all, if you know it's coming, acknowledge the concerns before they spiral. If you see the backlash forming, don't ignore it. It doesn't make it go away. Address it directly before it turns into a bigger problem. And then you clarify without over-explaining. A short, clear response is better than a long and defensive one. We see this time and time again with brands. The next piece of this is show and don't tell. If people think you're unethical, you can't just say you're not. You have to prove it. Change a policy. Donate. Fix the issue. Whatever makes sense. And the next, know when to stay silent. Sometimes responding just keeps the outrage cycle going. If the backlash is dying down, don't fan it up. Lastly, have a long-term reputation strategy. If you build goodwill before controversy happens, people are more likely to give you the benefit of the doubt when it does, if it does. This is why some brands sometimes choose to take a loss instead of fighting back, because public perception is more valuable than winning an argument.